the most important bit in your book. Now let's give the background to everyone. When you wrote the manuscript, you had called me, and we've had multiple discussions on this subject. First of all, I want to put it on record that I'm proud of you, of the fact that you had apprehensions, but we had our discussions and you went through with it. You went with the truth, which is something
Yes.
that matters. That when good scholarship is done, the truth is the only thing that should come out. Nothing else should come out. And I'm sharing this openly with everyone. While Aabhas was writing the book, he had called me. We had a long conversation, and he told me कि भाई मैं जो पढ़ रहा हूँ उसके हिसाब से जो ऑर्थोडॉक्सी ने जो सत्य बोला हुआ है, सत्य वो मुझे तो नहीं दिख रहा है, तो मैं क्या करूं? And I told him कि you right, because you're not making the case for Babar, nor are you making the case for Islamism. You are actually just stating कि हाँ भाई मंदिर तोड़ा गया था मगर थोड़ा डेट गड़बड़ है. That's all it is. मंदिर तोड़ा गया था, इन्हीं लोगों ने तोड़ा था, डेट गड़बड़ है. So having given this caveat, now narrate who broke the Ram Mandir.
So when I had no intention to do what if I put it this way, I did not know that I will write what I have written in these chapters around Ram Mandir, because I was hoping that I will find some way or other evidence about it being destroyed by Babur, but we find no evidence whatsoever from the that era. There is not a single inscription which talks about it. We will get to the inscription, which many people would have got excited looking at Wikipedia and even Baburnama of Anand Beverage Sujan, where she has put in appendix a translation of an inscription which she got from the magistrate of Awadh or Ayodhya, and that happens to be one of the most important source to claim that the Ram temple was demolished at the order of Babur at the hands of Mir Baqi Tashkandi, who was his general. Now, first, I must make it clear, when we try to talk about, when we see that who is this character Mir Baqi Tashkandi, we find no such character called Mir Baqi Tashkandi anywhere in Baburnama. He's totally absent. He's not a general. As in, he's not a general, as in Mir Baqi. Mir Baqi is a character, but he is not a general. And Baqi Tashkandi is another character. So the two characters have been brought and merged together. And because he is not general, so he wouldn't have been taking the order as it has been narrated. Second thing, what we find is that when the case of this demolition happens, as in how the common story goes, it was demolished in when it was demolished. Now, in that period, Mir Baqi was involved in a battle with Biban and Baizad, who were the two rebels of Babur. As in, they had rebelled against him, and they were stationed in Lucknow. So that time, this character Mir Baqi is locking the horns with Baizad and Biban to kill them or do something to them. That was the problem. Now, what is very interesting, there are two mosques which Babur has built and which is very well recorded in Baburnama. One is the mosque of the Dholpur, and he explains very clearly that where he has built it, how it is, and after that, he talks about a mosque at Agra, and that also has been beautifully described, that how it looks, where it's located. He knows exactly where he is located his mosque. He knows exactly where how it looks like. He explains them all. Now, after that, Jahangir writes in his memoirs. Jahangir comes way after, as in Babur, then Humayun, then Akbar, then Jahangir, right? There are three generations between Jahangir and Babur. And then Jahangir talks of two mosques built by Babur. One of the mosques is the one which has been built in Agra, which I just spoke about. Other mosque which he talks about is in Dholpur. Now, Jahangir is talking centuries later. He has no interest to hide that Babur destroyed Ram Janmabhoomi because he's not Babri Action Committee in 1992 or 93. He's writing way. So he had no interest of hiding that why mosque was built in Ayodhya. Then, very interestingly, Babar gives description of even number of men who are involved in creating the mosque and the structures. Like he talks about around 660 men working regularly in his buildings in Agra, and there are around 1491 stone cutters. So he has gone to that detail to explain this whole thing. But this instance is entirely missing. Now, what we further find that the first time when the inscriptions do appear, it is in 1877, when 1877, around that period, when the matter goes to the court. First inscription that exists is only Allah. Inscription only talks about Allah. So I'm talking about inscriptions first. The first time we get an inscription is which is produced in the court, it only writes Allah. We don't find anything else. It does not talk about Babar. It does not, and then it is stated in the court that this was built by Babar Mirza, but we don't know exactly more of it because in the inscription it just written Allah. Now, before that, there were a lot of travel, and I must speak also about Gulbadan Begum because Gulbadan Begum was the daughter of Babur, and she is sister of Humayun, and she is writing Humayun Nama. That means that she is writing the text exactly after Babur has departed, right? Because she is writing about Humayun. When she is writing about Humayun in Humayunama, she does not talk at all about Ayodhya Mosque, but she talks about the one built in Agra, and she talks about one built in Dholpur. Again, the repetition of what we spoke about. Babur speaks about it. Later on, Jahangir speaks about it. But before that, in Humayunama, Gulbadan Begum also talks about it. And she also goes in similar detail as Babur had given. Now, she's also talking about that Biban and Baizad are having a tussle with Babur. She's giving that reference to. Now, further as we go ahead, we have the reference of Abul Fazl. Abul Fazl is again writing in Aine Akbari. So, Aine Akbari happens in the era of Akbar. There she is talking about the place called Ayodhya, which is very pious to the Hindus, and it's called as Ram Janmabhoomi. And in that very place, Sri Ram is celebrated in Ram Navami. So obviously, in mosque Ram, Sri Ram is not going to be celebrated. And again, Abul Fazl is not talking about a mosque being erected. There is no mention of mosque at all. And after that, while he's talking about, he speaks about Ram Avatar and everything. So there is no trace of mosque at all. And Abul Fazl text appears in 16th century when Akbar is alive. After that, Badauni comes into the picture. Now, Badauni also talks about Dholpur and Agra for Babur. Ayodhya is again missing. Badauni is a staunch Musalman. And that's why people say that often Badauni and Akbar had disagreement because Badauni was a staunch Musalman who never accepted a lot of ideas of Akbar because Akbar was flipping later on. He was not very religious. So he again had no interest of hiding the thing about Ayodhya. Now, as we go ahead, there is a traveler called William Finch, who visited Ayodhya in 1610, and he was a merchant, and he had come to Surat, and after that he carried on his travel to Ayodhya. In Surat, he reached in 1608. In 1610, he reached in Ayodhya. Now, it is around 80 years after the earliest description of Ram Mandir. He says that he finds a Ram temple there. As in, there is a place of the Ramchandra castle. He talks about Ramchandra castle. He writes that here are also ruins of the Ramchandra castle and houses, which the Indian acknowledge for the great God, saying that he took flesh upon him to see the tamasha of the world. So he's attributing this place to be Ram Janmasthan as the ruins of the castle of Sri Ram. So again, there is no mosque is entirely missing. In 1610, mosque does not exist. And as we go ahead, then we have got the evidence of John's delete, Thomas Herbert. Thomas Herbert comes in 1634. John's delete comes in 1631. They have given detailed description of Ayodhya. Again, Ram Mandir is present there. What is missing is mosque. Mosque is entirely missing. We have come till 1634. As we further go ahead, then we have got of a Jesuit father, Tiffin Theller, who visits the place, and He visits it in around 1760 to 1770, around that era, and he writes about Ayodhya, and then he talks about Sri Ram Janmabhoomi and the temple being not existing. It's a mosque which has come there. Now this is happening in 1760. We got the record from 1734 and all, and now right now I'm talking about 1767, and the mosque has got in place. And Tiffin Teller gives a description that the local people allege that Aurangzeb has destroyed the Ram Mandir. Tiffin Teller is talking about it for the mosque for the first time, as in the one account for the mosque comes for the first time, and he talks about it being demolished by Aurangzeb, which is in the memory of the people. Now, later on comes Buchanan. Buchanan talks about the Ram Mandir being destroyed too, and he has visited the place in the early 19th century, as in 1830s or something like that, 1810, around that period. And then he says that it seems that Aurangzeb has destroyed the place as per the local memory, but I do feel. So he writes that the destruction is very generally attributed by the Hindus to the furious zeal of Aurangzeb, to whom is imputed to overthrow of the temples in Banaras and Mathura. So the local public, who are very close to Mathura and Banaras, as in Kashi, they say that not only Kashi and Mathura, but also the temple of Ayodhya, this way Ram Janmabhoomi Mandir, has been destroyed by Aurangzeb. But what he says that he flips it entirely. Buchanan writes that what may have been the case in the two latter, I shall not take upon myself to say, but with respect to Ayodhya, the traditions seem to be very ill-founded. He is blaming that people's tradition, as in what they are narrating, is perhaps ill-founded, they are wrong. And then he goes on to attribute that it's most likely Babar who has done it. The local people are saying that it's done by Aurangzeb, and this man, this British, claims that it's done by Babar. He changed the narrative altogether. So what we find that temple was existing till the Aurangzeb comes into the power. Suddenly the mosque appears after Aurangzeb has come to the power. Before that, it was always temple all through. That is what we find from all the local records. Now, very interesting thing is that Buchanan did produce inscription, and he says that I had got this inscription from this is the Persian inscription which I got translated from some Maulvi. He talks about a Maulvi having translated it, and in there, that very inscription, a lot of things appear. And one of the very interesting and curious thing is that the lineage is being spoken about. Lineage start with Aurangzeb and ends with Taimur. Now, how can Aurangzeb appear in an inscription which is being brought in the era of Babur? That itself was a big fallacy, right? Because they're talking about the lineage is go till Taimur, starts with Aurangzeb, Aurangzeb to till Taimur. That's how they describe the lineage as. Apart from that, there is also a mishap of a date, because it's around 1516 or something, where the inscription speaks about, that is 923 AH al Hijri calendar date. That is when Babur got an inspiration from some Sufi or Darwish back then, and he inspired him to destroy this very temple. And this meeting happens in Ayodhya itself. Babur was nowhere in Ayodhya in 923 CE, 923 AH. He was still preparing to enter into Hindustan. So we see that there was a lot of forgery in the inscriptions which was going on and on. And most likely, this forgery was being done by the Muslim side just to make a claim that this mosque was very old enough. And that's how the people got carried away. And it's unfortunate that when the work was being done from our side also, we did not focus, as in uh, the nationalistic wing or whoever wants to write for pro Ram Mandir. Somehow this narrative got stronger that Babur is the man who destroyed the temple, but there are there is no evidence whatsoever. There is zero evidence to claim that it was destroyed by Babur. There are very strong evidence that it was destroyed by Akbar. Aurangzeb. And later on, we have the record of Manucci, who talks about the temples which Aurangzeb is targeting are from Ayodhya, Mathura, Kashi, and some other places, Mayapur, and other places he talks about. So we have the description. In fact, in the book, I have further established that it was most likely destroyed by the cousin brother of Aurangzeb, the Fidai Khan, or if I'm not wrong, if I remember the name correctly. So we know exactly who was the destroyer based on all these sources. In fact, the date was completely missed out and messed up, and it's why I discussed with you earlier, Kushal bhai, because I was also in dual mind that whether I'm taking a right path or not, because often get it's very tough to be dispassionate. I try to be dispassionate most of the times, which you may find in my work. I often try to be that, but at times you get carried away for which are the things which are too central to your whole ideology. Like Ram Mandir has been very central to all of us. So this thing coming up and shifting the whole narrative, that what it was really a challenge, and that's why I thought that it really needs a careful thought, and it needs careful work. So I have dedicated around 3 chapters around it, where I have dealt with the inscription, I have dealt with how Mir Baki's name was mistranslated, how these things happen. I have gone on to explain all these things.
Now, two, three questions here when it comes to this entire story. The first is that the one thing your narration clearly establishes, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ram Mandir is real, and Ram Mandir was the continuing tradition for hundreds of years. Is that true or
Yes,
not?
that's very true.
So, the narrative that the Indian progressive side, progressive in quotes for those who don't know, uh, and has been that there was no Ram Mandir in the first place. This was always a masjid. So, what your research actually shows is that at a much later period, this entire trope that oh X हो गया, Y हो गया, ऐसे हो गया, वैसे हो गया is actually a bunch of rubbish. There was a continuing worshipping tradition in the Ram Mandir, and it was only at the time of Aurangzeb that he, the bigot that he actually not only did a number on the Ram Mandir, he did a number on Ayodhya, Kashi, Mathura, all of them, right?
Yes, yes. Yes, and I got to add just one more point. In fact, all these inscriptions which appear in that, they even got Babur's name wrong.
How?
It appears that when the inscriptions which was brought into the court in the early 20th century, in that this inscription which was submitted to the court, the Babur's name appears at the term which is used is Gadi. It's not Ghazi. And the same mistake also appears further in one more will of Babur, which again is a chapter where I deal with whether he was tolerant towards Hindus or not. In that also the wrong seal of Babur has been put there. Also the name goes as Gadi. So the people who the inscription are done by the emperors. If someone builds it, they will put the inscription and go ahead. Right? Okay, this has been. They are not going to get their name wrong for sure. Not the dates wrong, right? In fact, one of the inscription are 3 line inscription, 1, 2, 3. On the first line, it gives you a date of 1523 CE. Other one gives you a date of 1528. So the same set of inscription as in first line, second line, third line. First line says 1523. Of course, I'm translating it. It's actually the AH here, and the later one is 1528. You can't have these inconsistencies when you are doing such serious works, right? It's not a school text which people are writing. He's an emperor. He wants to establish his might. He wants to put the truth as it is, or rather he wants to proclaim himself as strong as possible. He can't get his name wrong, he can't get his inscription wrong, the dates wrong, and it all looks like an absolute forgery, because the first inscription only talks Allah. Then we find where the lineage itself, in the era of Babur, we are finding that Aurangzeb has been named, right? So these are some big fallacies, and we should have caught on it long back, and in fact this should have been cleared, I believe, in the early 2000 itself. It shouldn't have taken so long.
See, on that bit of Manucci, now I want to read what actually तुमने लिखा है इधर. So you say a contemporary gem of a literary treasure that illuminates the demolition of Ayodhya shrines is the account penned by Niccolo Manucci. This Italian voyager who set foot in India in the year AD 1656 found himself entwined in the political turmoil of the era. He championed Dara Shukho in the succession war at Samugad. Following Dara's fall, Manucci served at the court of Jaswant Singh before entering the Timurid Emperor's Aurangzeb's court, where he would remain for years. Eventually, he turned to the ancient craft of a Vaidya. His insights into the Timurid court were profound and intimate. Manucci breathed his breath of his last in India in AD 1710, and his meticulously kept diary first surfaced as Storia the Mughal, the story of the Mughals in AD 1837, thanks to the government of Ceylon. And now I'm reading the excerpt, okay? In this realm of India, although King Aurangzeb destroyed numerous temples, there does not hereby fail to be many left at different places, both in his empire and in the territories subject to the tributary princes. All of them are thronged with worshippers, even those that are destroyed are still venerated by the Hindus and visited for the offering of alms. I repeat the last line, ladies and gentlemen. All of them are thronged with worshippers. Even those that are destroyed are still venerated by Hindus and visited for the offering of the alms. The claim for the Ram Mandir is this continuing tradition.
Yes.
The memory was never defeated. वो
Yes.
तोड़ने के बाद भी लोग जाते रहते थे कि नहीं साले इधर ही जाके पूजा करूंगा. यही है राम का घर. यही है. In fact, and that is why when you had told me कि भाई ये पता चल रहा है मैं क्या करूं, and I had told you the same thing at that time. This only makes the case for the Ram Mandir even stronger. It doesn't make it weaker. किसने तोड़ा वो कैसे मैटर करता है, तोड़ा ये मैटर करता है. Just because an orthodoxy believed कि बाबर ने तोड़ा और अभी हमको पता चल रहा है कि नहीं एक्चुअली बाबर तोड़ नहीं पाया, तो इसका मतलब तो हम जीते ना वो हारा. हम स्ट्रांग आते हैं ना, बाबर थोड़ी ना स्ट्रांग आता है, हम स्ट्रांग आते हैं कि हम उसको पिछाड़ देते थे जब भी उनकी अगर मंशा होती थी. या हो सकता है बाबर की मंशा ना हो, सानू की, हम उधर पूजा कर रहे थे. ये औरंगजेब जो घटिया इंसान था उसने तोड़ा, और उसके बाद भी हम पूजा करते थे उधर. हमने औरंगजेब के बाद भी पूजा करनी बंद नहीं की. वी नेवर स्टॉप वर्शिपिंग एट द राम मंदिर डिस्पाइट औरंगजेब ब्रेकिंग इट. This is what Manucci's account proves in your book that you have reproduced.
Yes.
Which is why I wanted to read this verbatim, because this is the most clinching thing. This is 410, page number 410 of the book, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
That's the most important point. And I think इसीलिए मैंने तुझे बोला था जब हमारी ये बात हुई थी, मनोरा, you have to reproduce this. It doesn't matter who gets hurt. हमारे देश में तो आजकल कोई भी हर्ट हो जाता है. और फिर जैसे सूर्यकांत आके एक लंबी लंबी ऐसे लिखते हैं. So that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It should not matter. The truth matters. No matter who looks bad and who looks good. How long will we करेंगे? और इसके आगे भी देखने वाला है. The translator further wrote, the chief temples destroyed by King Aurangzeb within his kingdom were the following: 1. Maisa, Mayapur; 2. Mathura; 3. Saxis, Kashi; Ayodhya, and an infinite number of others, but not to tire the reader, I do not append their names.
Yes.
उसके बाद Manucci's account, etched in the annals of time, casts a stark shadow on Aurangzeb's deeds at Ayodhya. The temples that once stood as sentinels of devotion were, under Aurangzeb's command, reduced to mere echoes of their former glory. Manucci, a contemporary chronicler with a keen eye on the empire's pulse, affirms the desecration of Ayodhya's sacred shrines by imperial decree. His words carry the weight of certainty, naming Ayodhya among the 4 hallowed places where temples were raised. अब मुझे सिर्फ एक तेरे को फॉलो अप क्वेश्चन पूछना था. What if बाबर ने तोड़ा, हमने फिर बनाया, और फिर औरंगजेब ने तोड़ा? Did you consider this possibility?
I was looking for this possibility too, but the point was that Babur could never reach, nor could Mir Baki Tashkandi, or the Baki Sangwal, as the other character appears. None of them ever made to Ayodhya, and on this very date, And there is, because this was a matter of pride, like how Aurangzeb took a pride in destroying the temple. So that's why the Famans also exist for. And Ayodhya, he had destroyed many other temples. So it's very probable that, or rather, it looks like almost certain that even this temple would have got his eyes, because Abul Fazl is observing that Ram Navami is being celebrated, right? And that means the temple wouldn't have risen in succession of say 60, 70 years. It is an old fort, which in fact William Flinch also talks about. So William Flinch is talking about in 1610, which is around 60, 70 years. So it has been old. It's in ruins because, of course, the Timurids are quite not a people who are fond of letting you maintain your temples, as people say. So that's the reason it's impossible to believe that the temple was destroyed. We have the evidences that temple where this temple dates to at least 11th or 12th century, if not older. And in fact, this points us to this argument also, that perhaps this is the reason why honorable court did not mention who destroyed it, but they made clear that temple was destroyed. That's our case, and that's what even we are saying, right? Temple was
और
destroyed.
याद
It
है मैंने
was,
तेरे को फोन पे भी यही बात बोली थी जब तूने मेरे को ये पूरा नरेट किया था.
yes,
याद है मैंने तेरे को ये फोन पे एग्जैक्टली ये बात बोली थी. इसके लिए कोर्ट बोल नहीं रही है किसने तोड़ा.
yes. That's why court did not make the point that who destroyed it, but the point was the temple is destroyed, and that is a very essential thing. And most important essential thing is that Hindus never lost the hope. They never lost the battle. They continued to carry the battle, and just how beautifully the Ram Mandir movement had united the people. Because I still see the clips, because I was a 4-year-old boy when 1992 thing happened. But when I look at the clips, what the people had corrected, उन सब हिंदू से पूछा जाता था, कौन जात हो भाई, which caste you belong to, and everyone used to say Hindu. And that was such a moment. That was such a moment which united all the Hindus, all the shades, all the reasons together. And I don't think there have been such a thrilling moment in the whole Hindu context as how we have seen so far. It was indeed a great moment, and that changed the tide largely.
Yeah, see, to me, Ram Mandir is the pivotal, quintessential moment of Indian history, which just shows that, to everyone who keeps saying that, अरे Hindus बटे हुए हैं, Hindus ये हैं, Hindus are never going to come together or do anything. The Ram Mandir is a slap on the face of everybody, because the struggle for the Ram Mandir was not just of the people in and around that area. The struggle for the Ram Mandir is, people forget, कर सेवा करने के लिए सबसे ज्यादा लोग southern India से आए थे सबसे पहली बार. It was
Yes,
the southern Indians who came for Karseva. Today, you look at the tourist footfalls in Ayodhya at the Ram Mandir, and you will realize that people from all over the country come and throng over there. In fact, but the tragedy is, are we going to be in a position to handle it? I mean, it's an infrastructural nightmare that we need to deal with. But the faith of the people in Bhagwan Shri Ram has always been there. The fight has always been there. And what these excerpts, like, I don't know, it's like 50, 60 odd pages where you deal with this in detail, if I remember correctly. I could remember.
yes,
Like 50-60 पेज हैं जिसमें तुमने इसके ऊपर पूरा ध्यान से पूरा breakdown किया है. All this proves is this, a struggle for Ram Mandir was eternal. We kept on struggling. And we will go on struggling, which is why I always say that Kashi Mathura baki hai, and yes, we will get Kashi Mathura also. And we have to struggle the same way we struggled for the Ram Mandir. That's the only way out in a democracy. That's the only way out in a democracy. We will have to struggle for Kashi and Mathura just like we had to struggle for Ram Mandir. And you know what the irony is? That the Ram Mandir evidence was harder to get. Kashi and Mathura is so in your face. It's so in
yes,
your face. It's so obvious what they have done in Kashi and Mathura. And we know it's done by the same person. Now, we knew it all the time that Aurangzeb did it.